Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another fantastic episode of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey. I am your host, and I am so happy that you have taken the time to join me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Now, here in Foxborough, we have a long history of, I'll say we're proud of our school system. We have superior education, standardized score testing. We have superior athletic offerings. We don't charge fees for user fees for our music and our athletics programs. But there's more to school than sports. And one of those key pieces is creating a we'll call it a culturally inclusive student body. And our Metco program is one way that we here in Foxborough are able to perhaps reach out with some of our superior school opportunities and receive back an opportunity to become a more inclusive and understanding community. So, that being said, I'm very pleased to be joined by my guest today, Yesenia Castro. Thank you so much for coming out here. You are the director of the Foxborough Metco program?
That is correct.
I got that right. That's always a good thing. That's a way to start off the program, right? And then I'm with Millie Arbaje Thomas, who is the state director of Metco. Is that correct? You have a better title, don't you? Why don't you tell me?
CEO.
The CEO.
The Chief Executive Officer of Metco Inc. in Boston.
Fantastic. So thank you, Millie, for being here. And I suppose that's a great way to start off. So many of us have heard Metco. In fact, my wife used to be one of the coordinators with the Metco program at the Ahern School back in the day, many moons ago. And it was a great experience. But for those of us who maybe don't know what exactly Metco is, we hear, but what is Metco? Let's start from there and we'll work our way down, shall we?
Okay, great. So the Metco program started in 1966, and it actually was birthed out of the civil rights movement here in Boston, and it came out of lack of opportunities for people of color to have excellent educational opportunities, but also because the suburban communities were racially isolated. So it served two purposes. It was to desegregate the schools in Boston and to do some racial integration in the suburban communities. The program is not income-based, and I think that's an important thing to talk about because we want to show the rich diversity of the urban Boston community. So the program brings people of color from all economic backgrounds into 33 suburbs across the state of Massachusetts in order to bring racial diversity into the different towns. Outstanding.
So from 1966, and then I'll just play, Mickey here. And so, do we really need this nowadays? I mean, this is now the year 2018. Everybody gets along. There's no issues anymore, right?
Absolutely not. So I think, the program today is actually even more needed than before. Just think about what's happening in our country right now. All of the different things that are going on racially, the racial riots, the stereotypes of different groups of people, of immigrants, Latinos, blacks, the different fears that people have, whether you belong to a different group or another. This is what the Metco communities bring, because when you become friends with someone else that looks different than you, you change your perspective and you begin to break down your own stereotypes and your own racial barriers. So I think the program today in Massachusetts is actually more racially segregated than there was back in the 60s. Matter of fact, the Boston neighborhoods are extremely segregated, even within our own Boston community. So this program, I think, is essential to prepare the global citizens of tomorrow, that you cannot go in this world without having met a person of color and without a person of color having met and became friends with someone that is different than them. So I think the program is very beneficial, and this is one way that we can get to a better country when we build friendships one classroom at a time.
Clearly, she makes a great CEO because she's an excellent spokesman for the Metco program. So, Yesenia, I'm so glad to meet you also. And you are here in Foxborough, so you're part of us. You're part of our school system.
I am.
And where's your office? Are you based out of the Ahern or the high school or at the administration building?
I have two offices. I have one out of the Ahern, and I also have one at the high school.
Okay. So you're there with the students. You're at the level.
Yeah.
And so let's just talk a little bit about you. How did you come to Foxborough?
I'll back up a little bit. I am a Metco program alum. I am a graduate of Weston Public Schools. That's my first interaction with the Metco program. I was a Metco director before for Reading Public Schools.
Okay.
I did that for about 9 years. I left, and then this opportunity presented itself, and I came back. Here I am back with the Metco program.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been here in Foxborough?
This is my second year in
Well,
Foxborough.
then I'll give you the welcome because you're not really a part of us until you come to Foxborough Central. So here you are.
All right.
Here you
This
are.
is the official
Now you're
welcome
in.
now.
That's right. Dr. Berdos was here. Now you're here. We're all
Yeah.
good now. So, well, first of all, from your perspective, and we heard from the state level what the goals and the objectives are, but here in Foxborough, there's I suppose we all take pride in our school. We all like to say, hey, I'm not that way, or I'm not racist because I would never think of doing that. And yet, it's so sublime sometimes, and the institutional racism is always going to be there. And people, when they refuse to acknowledge it, actually are contributing to the problem
That's right.
without even understanding that there is a problem. So getting to the point where people not only understand what Metco does, but embraces it, where are we at
course.
with that?
So we have
I know that's an awful long question.
Yeah,
I
that's
apologize for that. But I've been so
okay.
waiting for you to be on my program.
No,
I've got
that's
a lot.
okay, that's okay.
We're going to try to shove everything in 28
That's
minutes.
fine.
So
We're going to make it
We're
work.
going to
We're
do
going to
it.
make it work. So let me just back up a little. We have a really small program. We have 35 students in grades 5 through 12.
Okay.
And just speaking on, part of your question regarding like where are we with, having those conversations and embracing diversity, the district has lots of initiatives that they're working on right now that are touching on the, components of cultural competency and, all of those good things. One of my charges that I look at is interrupting that cycle of when there are issues of race that may surface, help facilitate those conversations with staff, with teachers, with students. So to really if conversations are coming up, really kind of let's dig into it, let's dissect it, and let's create a safe space where we can have that conversation. That's really one of my charges that I've
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's, I would think that has to have a couple of roadblocks. And I suppose the major one would be, yeah, but we're also trying to get the kids an education.
That
so
is
it's not as
correct.
if you've got just a happy honkin' social hour that you can play with.
Right. So including that is reminding folks the students are here absolutely for the opportunity, but how do we take that and learn from this great experience on both ends, both for our students that are commuting in from Boston as well as for our resident students.
And I suppose that brings up the question of commuting in from Boston. How does that work as far as, after school activities, extracurricular activities? Back when I went to school, there's something called the activities bus, and it would drive us to hither, thither, and yon. But I grew up in the country in Virginia, and that bus would sometimes get us home at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because it was a very big
long.
county. So is that the way it works here with the Metco program? And if so, how difficult is that?
So we do have some students that at the high school who are involved with extracurricular sports and activities, and it is a long day. Our students arrive here the same time as their peers, but they're getting on the school bus. My first bus stop is 5:50 in the morning. So let me think of my sports players who have practice after school, who then have to ride the late shuttle at 6 o'clock. Those students aren't getting home until 7:30.
Right.
Then you're talking about dinner, then you're talking about homework. So
And there have to be friends in there somewhere.
and,
some sort of
and there's some
social
kind
life.
of social component that
Yeah.
that has to happen. But that's the commitment that they're making.
So it's a bit of a sacrifice then to be part of the Metco
Absolutely.
program. Because you're
Absolutely.
also leaving, we in Foxborough talk about them coming to us, but for every come, there's a leave. And so
Right.
for those kids that are participating in the program, particularly fifth graders, they're leaving their friends
Right.
and coming to a new community and creating a whole new set of friends.
That is correct.
Along with the added scary problem,
Right.
which is the whole point of the program, because where our cultural insensitivity and lack of inclusion, it's the same on their side coming in.
Right.
So
Right.
is that the biggest challenge, recruiting kids, or is there something more
So recruiting kids from Boston, you mean? So that is not a challenge. There's 8,500 people on our wait list right now for a potential of 200 to 300 slots per year that get placed.
Wow.
So the chances of you getting into the Metco program is quite slim given the demand, because people have known about this. It was a grassroots effort that came, from the 60s, and everybody in Boston that's a person of color, primarily African American, knows about this deep history and where this program was born, how it was born. But like Yesenia said, this is a complete sacrifice. I mean, our kids are not only sacrificing time 2 to 3 hours a day in the bus, but then come into a classroom where they're the only person of color, and they may not actually be accepted by their peers. So the racial isolation is also very big. But then you brought up a question about what happens in Boston. So, my kids are in the Metco program as well, and we barely have any neighborhood friends because our time is spent in the district where we belong. So there's a serious disconnect both for families and our students. In Boston, you don't have a neighborhood school, so you don't have those friendships. And then the distance to get to the school and participate as a parent and as a student with play dates and sleepovers is also very hard. So one of the things that we want to do here in Metco, in the Boston office, is that we want to bring opportunities for families from all the towns to come together and socialize. And one of the things that I urge people when I go to the different towns is to really embrace the program and do a host family or a friends and family program, so that your Metco student from Boston can have a friendship in the neighborhood that they can stay when they have late nights, when there's sleepover opportunities, so that we can fully integrate. But at the same time, we asking the families from that community not to forget where we're coming from Boston, and to troop it out there as well and do the play dates and come out to a Metco Presents event that we started doing those this year at different theaters and different sporting events, so that we can really show the Commonwealth that we can come together and integrate. If we just send someone in a bus to sit in a classroom, we have lost so many opportunities. So I want to urge both families, the Boston families and the Foxborough and other town families, to come together and make that intentional attempt to get to know one another. Otherwise, all we're doing is busting kids in and busting kids out.
I think that's where I was going, and I'm so glad to hear you talk. And by the way, now's a great time, because we're going to start talking into some needs and things that we can do to support the program. The state program, Metco. Now, Metco is not a school. Metco is not the government. Metco is actually a nonprofit organization, correct?
It is.
And you're the CEO, and your web address is www.metcoinc.org.
Correct.
So people, when they log on your website, they're going to see the history of the program, but also what your current activities and current needs are, correct?
Correct.
And fundraising.
Yes, they will actually do that. So you see that. So basically right now we are a state line item. So that means every single year we have to go to the State House and lobby for the money to run the program, which means at any time, if the government decides that this is program, they're not going to fund it anymore, the program is gone. So for me, I find that very challenging, because how can we accept students to then stay in that school system until graduation, and every single year you have to fight for that money? That
how can you make that promise?
Yeah,
and how can you ask a kid to commit?
Exactly.
Because it's an emotional commitment.
It is.
As well as a time commitment. Because I'm emotionally saying, all right, now I'm going to be your friends, and you're going to be my peers and my set of people, and then every year, if that might be ripped away, that's
right. So
and that's a conversation I'm sure goes on in Boston when it comes down to the neighborhood schools, because we here in the suburbs, we have 3 elementary schools, and we know where kids are going based upon where we live, because we're a pretty
neighborhood based.
Well, and we don't have the cultural diversity issues here, so there's not the genesis isn't there for changing schools, and so we don't have that issue. So it's hard for us, at least for me in Foxborough, to truly grasp the situation that you have in Boston. And then if we take this as an extension of the busing out to Foxborough and to your other 33 communities, that's a tough nut. So. And then we talked a little bit about fundraising. If you're not fully, well, let's take a step back. How many people are on the waiting list?
So 8,500, and there's 3,300 slots across the state of Massachusetts right now for the Metco.
So only 40% of the kids that want to participate are able to participate.
Oh, I mean, if you do that math, 300 students a year out of 3,300. I mean, it's very small.
That's very
less
small.
less than 10% of the people from the wait list get in.
That's
But,
tough.
talking about the state line item, I think it's important for the community to know that the Metco program does come with funding. So the diversity that we're bringing, we're also coming in with dollars. That those dollars pay for staff such as Yesenia, and it pays for the buses. It's just that it's never enough. I mean, it's the bare bones. If we want students to stay after school and be fully integrated, we need more late buses.
Sure.
Yesenia the other day has asked me for support around, having social workers of color that can identify with our students and do affinity groups so they don't feel so alone, in the school district. So those are the things where we can find additional funding for. And for the first time in Metco's history, we have a fundraiser who just started working last week. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Well, we're going to be starting looking into foundations and maybe even having different fundraising events at people's living rooms and just talk about the program and see how the community can come together to fully support, either whether it's academic scholarships or transportation for their own town. So that's what I'm looking for from each district.
And that's very exciting when you think about it, because after 52 years, Yesenia, for somebody to come in here with that forward-looking, say, let's not just be totally dependent upon our annual financing from the
Right.
state. Let's start looking outside the box and
That's
maybe enrich our funding process so that we
Right.
can create a more robust offering. And that way you're not dependent on the nervousness every year of your
Right.
lobbying effort,
Right.
but more upon the strength of your supporters.
Yes.
So
That's
good
right.
for
Yes.
you.
That's right.
That's
Thank you.
exciting.
Thank you.
So, I'm sure we're not here asking everybody to just run out and contribute to Metco, but at the same time, awareness does breed opportunity. And so you can get a hold of Millie Arbaje Thomas at her email address, which is MARBAJET-THOMAS. I'm saying Arbaje, but there's a J, not an H, because I know how to say these things, at metcoinc.org. And again, go to the website. You can learn all about the great opportunities and how you can contribute both as a host family, as a supporter, and also through awareness and maybe supporting the Metco program when it comes to the annual funding process. Because a lot of this is also town meeting type stuff where
Right.
we're doing our own local budget, and maybe there's funding available in different communities for different things like foreign exchange programs for hosting kids from Spain. But it's great and it's important, but we also need to think about local, and
Right.
Boston is definitely local to us.
That's
And
right.
just as we were talking, and just I hate driving into Boston. Well, can you imagine if you're a kid on a
morning.
school bus and every morning
Every
doing
morning.
that? That can be brutal.
Yes.
Wow. So, Yesenia,
Yes.
let's talk about Foxborough.
Yes.
Love Foxborough. And you
Yes,
can
I do
learn,
love
of
Foxborough.
course, everybody can learn more about the Foxborough program by going to the town school website, which is www.foxborough, spelled the real way with the UGH, .k12.ma.us. And Metco has a whole tab on there. It gives you the history, gives you the current program, and it gives you an opportunity to meet Yesenia. But we don't need to go there because we're right here. Hi, how you doing? So Yesenia, you've been here now. So, and I'm not asking you to compare Weston to Foxborough, two different communities. Weston's above Wellesley, and there's a different access to Boston as well as economic outlay there. But here in Foxborough, we're a little more suburban, and it's a bit different from a I'll just say from an attitude standpoint. What are your findings here? What do you think of Foxborough?
I mean, this is my second year. Everyone has been extremely welcoming, welcoming of the program, just like the staff, the community. It's been great.
That's great. And of course, Debbie
yeah.
Spinelli, Dr. Spinelli, former superintendent, and Dr. Burdos, they've been very supportive and very strong leadership.
100% committed to the program.
That's
the
great.
district.
It's great to hear.
Yes.
So if they're
absolutely.
100% committed and you're 100% committed, where are we going? What do you want to
Where
do?
are we going?
Where
What
are we going?
doing? So right now, what the program is doing is we're looking to secure late buses so that our Ahern students can stay after and exactly what Millie was saying, have those opportunities where they can be a part of the school play or the music or extra help.
Sure.
So that's one of our initiatives that we're working on, which I'm very excited about. And the kids are excited about, and the parents are excited about that. We have a parent leadership board, so it's almost like the Boston version of a PTO. So the parents
Really?
come together. Okay. They're planning a holiday celebration on Sunday, December the 16th.
Oh.
It's open to all families in Foxborough. It's open to the Boston families. Last year we had the principal come out. We had some other staff come out. So it's a really nice way to build that bridge.
Which goes towards what your statewide objectives are of
That is
creating the
correct.
connections between the two
right.
communities.
And I would just add to what Yesenia was saying, that in Foxborough, the support is incredible. And the superintendent and I have also met, and she really loves the program. But the program is also very small, so I just want to, have those real conversations. It's about 35 students,
35,
right?
grades
35
5 through
students.
12.
So we're talking about, the full integration that we're bringing in from the urban communities of Boston is 35 students. So this is another reason why I talk about fundraising. It's not only just for the busing and for the after-school programming and for the opportunities to come together, but there's some school districts that actually have available spaces on the bus and also on the school grounds. But then why aren't we looking at increasing the numbers?
I was just going to ask that question.
Because it's about the money. Right now the Metco program comes with money. So sometimes a school might not open it up to more, to more students because they need the additional funding for the bus. Even though we don't take up seats, we actually try to go according to what seat availability, whatever is already open in the community. But I just want to also urge communities to find creative ways to do this. Like how can you fund a student, from beginning until the end, as a community, so that we're not solely depending on state dollars. But, the buses can definitely fit more than 35 students. Right. So there is a huge cost to that bus, and that bus is not coming here full. And I'm not talking about just Foxborough. I'm talking about many communities that we have are also on the smaller scale. So I think, that's just because that's how it started. But we have to think outside of the box. We don't have to stay at that number if we can find creative ways to make this work. Right now, there's about $6,000 to $7,000 that comes with every Metco student into the town's budget.
Wow.
In addition
so
to
you're
the
not
money.
stealing seats from our kids by bringing in your kids?
No.
So it's not a
We're
situation.
adding diversity,
I was
bringing
just gonna
money.
say, it's not
And
a situation where we're paying our taxpayers for somebody else's issues. This is quite the opposite. We're
Right,
actually
right.
funding the inclusion and funding the opportunity.
That is correct.
That's great.
Right.
So why don't we have more? It's just about the money?
It really is about the money. I think it has been also just the way that the program has been looked at. I think now with new leadership, and she's new, I'm new, I think we can get into creative ways of letting the community and school committees know that let's not depend on this line item only. We can find other ways to really subsidize some of these spaces. Especially if a school comes to me and tells me, I actually have spaces available that I'm not filling neither with Boston or resident families, and your bus is not 100% full. But I think it's just been historically, people are used to, the Metco program coming in with money per pupil. And when that money's not there, people don't think like, well, we can do more, first of all, diversity does, comes at a cost. Diversity is not always going to be for free. So, sometimes we, if we're really committed to this, we have to look at other ways of looking at this program. And one of the things that I tell the Metco districts as well is that if you are a Metco community, you have to be better than every other community out there. Because you know what? We are part of something so unique, something so historical, something so deep. That we're one of 7 in the entire United States school desegregation program still alive in today's day. One of 7, and we're the largest in the entire United States. Is this 3,300 students in the Boston program? Wow. So we can't forget about that. So if we are part and we say we're going to sign off, and school committees are signing on the dotted line that they're going to be a Metco community, that means we have to be better about teacher diversity. We have to be better about integrating our students in all the entire experience of school, and we also have to figure out ways to bring our families together. Look at curriculum bias, at instruction, teacher diversity. There's just so many things, but when you are in Metco district, that is the lens that you should have. Like, how can I be better? Because I've already did step number 1, accept these students into our towns, and then what's next? And I think that's where Metco has been for a while, in the accepting of the students. But now we're at the phase of like, what next, and what can we do in deeper and more intentional ways?
Oh, exciting. How nice that you're able to put into words that's a big task, but when you break it down step by step, really each goal is achievable if you just have, I'm going to say funding, but also the leadership. So it sounds like leadership is there, and now we just need to work on the funding aspect.
Right. And people are excited about this. When I talk to different communities, they say, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for like new energy. Let's do something together.
Fantastic.
So I think it's going to happen.
Well, let's make it happen together. And we're so close to being on time. I'm going to ask you one more question, and you'll both get the last word. But I just want to remind everybody you can learn more about the statewide Metco program at www.metcoinc.org. You can get a hold of Millie Arbaje Thomas at Arbaje, that's ARBAJE Thomas at metcoinc.org. Here in Foxborough.
Yes.
With your being in this position now, coming up on 2 years, what is the greatest accomplishment, and what is the next milestone you want to hit?
Greatest accomplishment, wow, in a year and a half. I think putting in place a parent leadership board was huge.
Okay.
As part of my relationship building with the families, with the students, I think that was huge for me to have that extra layer of support.
Because by doing that, you also create a partnership.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest challenge in any educational setting, and I'm not an educator, but is creating the partnership as opposed to the babysitting service.
Absolutely.
And I think by doing that, you're achieving that
Absolutely.
first step of incorporating everybody into the same family
Absolutely.
of
Because the
provider.
parents want to feel like partners.
Right.
We have to treat them as such.
And it's so easy here because and I take you out to the PTO meeting or to the fundraiser because I'm only a mile and a half away.
Right.
How difficult must it be if you're 18
The
miles
extra,
away
yeah.
battling rush hour
That's right.
traffic? That's
That's
got to
right.
be a nightmare.
That's right. So being creative.
challenge.
It is. It is. And providing creative ways for families to be involved.
And you had mentioned volunteers, so I would imagine that one of your primary goals is to create a deeper volunteer base here
I
in
would
Foxborough.
love to do
And
that.
If I wanted to volunteer, how would I do that?
Email me.
Email
Reach out
you.
to me. Yes.
Which is why I'm going to now give out. See how this works? This is phenomenal. Jasenia's email address here, Jasenia Castro, it's castroj@Foxborough, spelled the correct way, .k12.ma.us. castroj@Foxborough.k12.ma.us. And of course, you can check out the Metco tab at www.foxborough.k12.ma.us. So for the last word, I'm going to go local first, and we'll go state. So Jasenia,
Local.
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Give us
having me.
your final thought and what you want us to do.
I'm
Teach me.
I'm
Tell me.
excited that I had the opportunity to come out and share my program. Check out the website. We've got so many different things happening with the students, with the families. Check out the website.
Okay.
And reach out to me.
Check out the website. Reach out to Jasenia. Fantastic. Millie, thank you so much for coming all the way from Boston to be here with us. And what would you want us to do on the state level?
Would say that some time ago, Jasenia brought me to a Foxborough Rotary Club meeting.
They're wonderful, by the way.
A perfect
Awesome. Very
example.
supportive.
That was the first time we sat and made a presentation together. Out of that came a scholarship fund.
Yes.
Out of that one meeting.
Yes.
So
Outstanding.
I just listened to whatever we said today. If there's something there that actually resonates to you, that's something you want to get involved in, I'm looking for those local district partners because we cannot do this alone. So let's be intentional. Let's be deeply rooted into this program and see how we can do this as a community and make it better. But it can't be Boston and it can't be just a neighborhood. It has to be a unified effort to get us to the next level.
All of us together, and I suppose that's
Together
what
we are better is my motto this
I
year.
was
Right,
just
look
gonna
at that.
That is my motto this year. It's in all of my signatures. Together we are better.
Together we are better, and because you're watching us, we're part of the same family. So together we perhaps can make it better. Thank you for taking the time to join us as we learn more about the Metco program. Thank you, Millie, and thank you, Jasenia, for
Thank you,
doing
Bob.
this
Thank you so
and for
much.
sharing on our program. I want to thank everybody for being part of our family. Here at Foxborough Cable Access, we're run on the power of our volunteers. If you'd like to be part of our family, why not stop by our offices at 28 Central Street. We've got a beautiful studio. There's a place behind the camera for you. Or maybe even in front of the camera if you want to do a better job than I did. Until next time, Foxborough, have a great day.